question. What's the big report?
Oh, good afternoon.
Hey, Elissa. How are you?
Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock. I'd like to, it's Monday, April 3rd, I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Bill Mackerson will be with us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with an appointment with Jack Parsons and Gerry Hammer. Come on down. Gerry, you met everybody here?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
First of all, take a deep breath. It's nice to see you again. Right? Okay. The board, this has to do with a request from People's United Bank, and I think there were a couple of questions. Go ahead.
As I recall, the bank was looking for the board to verify that there would be no closure requirements for, no additional closure requirements for this excavation in the future. And we, before we certified that, we needed to at least understand a little bit more about what there might be, what might have been done if the site had been walked, reviewed recently, that sort of thing. I think Jackie can shed a little bit of light on that.
Well, we never visited it because it wasn't a permitted pit like every other one in town. It's just been going on and going on, so there's really there was no regulations to follow because it wasn't permitted, so it was a grandfathered pit, but not by the definition of the state's grandfather, so.
But it's still a change of use. And
Well,
did we go through the planning board to do that?
For,
Whatever is new use of the pit.
well, he did, yes. He
Okay.
got planning board approval for a maintenance facility in the building and the use of the property, the planning board site plan.
Okay, so that's been site plans
2
done.
or 3 years ago, I think it was now.
Yeah, originally in 2008.
That long ago? Okay.
And then,
So when did you
No
start
wonder I don't
excavating?
we stopped excavating as of the end of 2015.
So, I guess, you were on the planning board, right?
Yeah,
Is there any need for another visit for planning board approval?
I don't believe so because the pit was not regulated by the planning board because it wasn't approved, so.
No, I know, but this change of uses.
Right, I've been there a few times because he built the building and all that, I've been there, so. And what he's doing is permitted based on his site plan.
Okay, so there's been a site plan review in a while.
Yeah. It just changed from pulling the materials off the property to storing it on the property or
Right.
somewhere else.
Right.
And that was what we got permission to do.
Any other questions?
Okay.
What is the board's pleasure?
I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
If I've got to come down here, you got to come down here. That's how it works.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for
Yep.
coming in to
Yep, not a problem.
meet with us.
Say a word, did I?
Think spring.
I know, right? Got it.
I'll be glad to send that to Kim, and
What's
I'll be glad to send that to Kim for you and give you a copy.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
I'll
that'd
do
be
that.
great. Yep. Yep,
Thank you.
super. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think Karen has it.
Yep, you need it back?
The next item is Jack Parsons' intent to excavate. You will attend the meeting.
Chris is here too from the planning board that we just went through you know, about this, so.
Okay.
So when these were presented at last week's meeting, there was a question about the fact that we don't have approved permits. And we discussed at the time that we're in a transition process now, going from a totally out of compliance situation with the state to being in compliance. And the first step in that was the changes in the zoning regs that were approved at town meeting, which allowed for, which started the clock running on a 2-year, my understanding, a 2-year window for folks that had been excavating recently to come to the planning board and get an excavation permit. And so between now and then, they will be allowed to excavate in the way they have in the past.
With the understanding that they have 2 years to come in and be compliant, and after that, it's.
After that, there's no more.
Right.
Yeah.
The key word,
Chris, can
the
you?
key word is active. As long as they have been actively excavating at the time that the ordinance got passed at town meeting,
In 2 years prior.
in 2 years prior, they are quote-unquote grandfathered. If they haven't been, they cannot come to the town for a permit. They have to go through the process prior, you know. But the others, which there's, from our best guesstimate, there's only a handful of, they are qualified to come get the permit and have that 2 years to become compliant with the planning board. And we do actually have a permit that meets all the specifications. We went through all of that and got that finally hammered out. So that would be the correct permit that they would need to get now.
We were given language that we could put in that I think satisfied the problem that I had with it at any rate, which was giving a permit without having all the paperwork done.
Yes, this was from Mary Pinkham Langer. The selectmen may decline to sign for non-compliance, or they could sign the intent and then sign on the intent to the left of the signature, or add a notation, quote, "The selectmen reserve the right to rescind their signatures for non-compliance within RSA 155-E or local excavation ordinances." Would that be your recommendation?
No, because our ordinance already has that stipulation, and if at the time that you are signing this, they don't follow and they don't become compliant in that 2 years, you would rescind that anyway. Because we did talk about this and we did consider all the language from Mary Pinkham Langer and the state, and the reason why we presented the ordinance in the fashion by which we did was because we considered all the verbiage, but our ordinance already has that insurance in there. If they don't, then you can rescind it because they didn't follow the guidelines by which they were supposed to become compliant. Because as of right now, anybody that's active and has been active can and has up to 2 years from the date of approval and passage by the town. So whether or not you sign that permit, you should sign the permit, but then you already have that insurance that you can rescind that if they don't become compliant because it's already in the ordinance. It's already there.
And again, all we're doing is signing an intent to excavate. We're not signing a permit. Do you think that there's a way on the paperwork that we can remind people of the 2-year limitation?
It wouldn't be a bad idea if it would make you feel more comfortable to put a memo with it and say, please be reminded to refer to Section 11 in the zoning. That's more than, but.
I don't think the intent to excavate reflects the current town meeting vote. So that ordinance that we all voted on is what our planning board's talking about.
Mhm.
The intent to cut doesn't reflect that ordinance per se.
Yeah.
It couldn't, because it.
No, that's a state
It's just a
tax
tax.
document,
So-
so.
That's
I mean,
a
I
cut.
feel a lot more comfortable signing it and saying that we can rescind the signature. I mean, I don't know how that affects.
But those are
the
yearly,
use of
so
the
it wouldn't
pit.
happen until 2 years from
Right, right,
March.
right. Yeah, non-compliance with the current ordinance means it's gonna get rescinded by the selectmen. I mean, I don't, if it's not reflected in that document, but it is reflected in our ordinance, that now we have competing interests going on. So we need to be consistent. So if our ordinance says we have the right to rescind, I think that should say we have the right to rescind as well. That would be my position.
But the problem there is, if somebody does come to us for an intent to excavate, that is going to go through the whole process, you know.
No.
These guys are already grandfathered.
They're
Under our
grandfathered by
ordinance.
skipping the ZBA, they still have to go to the planning board for site plan.
Right,
To
right.
approve their
And I
permit.
don't wanna,
Right.
you know,
They have 2 years to do
subvert
that.
that at all.
But they have
And
2 years
anybody
to
that
do
comes
that.
in new is gonna, we're not gonna sign it subject to. It's
No, you're not gonna sign, they're gonna do
have
the whole
thing
process,
done.
anyone new, but the
Right.
ones that have been,
So these are just for the few that are out there already
Exactly.
doing business.
And they're already doing business, and they already know if they come in for this intent to excavate, they already know they have the 2 years. If they don't, then it gets rescinded anyway, so it's already there.
Right.
It's already
It's just
there.
not on this.
it's not in that document, that's a state
Yeah.
document.
Yeah.
I would assume you stick a memo with it when you mail it back, just to give them light, because many of them read the ordinance and remember it 2 years from now.
Can you come up with a sample paragraph or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I have here, you've reviewed these Mountain Shadows, 3 Lot 1, 24. I have Mountain Road, 32-212. I have another one from Mountain Road, 32-24. I have Sodom Road, 16-19. I have Sergeant's Crossing, 32-26. Those are the permits that are under question, right? Under consideration?
The intent to
Yeah,
excavate.
excavate.
Move approval of those intents to excavate.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
I think we can, I would want to have language added that we can rescind this regardless of the testimony that's come before. So if we want to add a codicil that Jack Parsons going to attach, that satisfies me in that case.
It satisfies me. Does it satisfy
Yes.
you?
It does.
Okay. We all understand what the motion is, to pass it with a addendum. Any further discussion? Any thoughts you have?
I just think,
Okay, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 3-0.
Three.
Okay, next item, Jack Parsons, Building Department update.
We have 15 new building permits today, 3 new homes. I've done 84 inspections, and the only damage around that I can find from the storm was a couple shingles blew off the back of the townhouse, the top corner. And those are supposed to be repaired, so that was it. The front, everything stayed on after the new roof, so nothing come off.
Lucky lucked out.
Yep.
Okay, anything else for Jack?
I'll stick around for the narrow lake.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Next is Ben, how you doing? Good. Come on down.
Good afternoon.
A compliment, I read your letter at the town meeting, and there weren't any questions other than who was the guy that donated the time, so I introduced Jeff Moody to the people, and all your work for the Narrow Lake Boat Launch was accepted by the town. Thank you for your efforts. Anybody here have any question about the documents that we need to sign?
Is everything in place to move forward with the grant? Do we need any more permits?
I've contacted James Folsom. He's just waiting for the approval from you people to move forward with the process. Everything has been approved, it's just a question of putting it all together. We need a shoreline permit, and he's gonna do the final design from what we submitted to him, or I submitted to him, so, in an architect's,
So we still have a permit process to go through.
Yep.
yes.
These are the wetlands for repair of the wetlands, so.
It's kind of like a loan, it has been pre-approved, right, so, he did a lot of legwork before even, going with this. And I think you've got it, but I've got a couple of things, and, he updated from October to March, his proposal.
Yep.
So you should be up to that. The numbers that you have, I believe, are what, $9,600?
Right.
What I would like to,
9206.
right, okay, what I would like to add to this, the original proposal was, I got estimates from Integrity, who got them from some of his suppliers. That number was 10,007 something, and I do believe it was the Board of Selectmen that wanted to know if we could do this project for $10,000, and that's how we got Jeff Moody to volunteer. The site work, and I got another paving quote. And the reason I'm bringing this up is these were done last fall. Prices are going to change, asphalt's going to change, concrete's going to change. So it might not exactly be $9,200. So I'd like everybody to be aware of that.
So does the 92, walk me through the numbers here. It was 92 through the 2350 to
Yes,
Folsom?
yes,
Okay, and all of the hard goods.
right.
Yeah, it's
What is
concrete
Moody?
from Jeff's donating his labor.
The selectmen have
Still supplying materials.
a quote from Jeff Moody for his, I believe it's materials,
Yep, 2396.
okay? And I have one for Sunday paving, which is 2,200, I believe.
I have job total 2500. from Sunday paving.
2,500, okay.
And how much was the median? Just?
$23.96. That's gravel, stone, silt fence, and fabric.
And there's concrete from Thompson.
Concrete from Thompson is 1,460.
So there's still a little bit of space. Okay.
Your recommendation is that contractor Moody do the work?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. You'll see a lot of volunteers.
You and your committee have worked hard. Did the selectmen have a problem with
No, I think we need to make a policy that we put these things out to bid, but obviously the bidding process is gonna help us out in this situation because we're getting a lot of volunteer work out of it. But I think as a policy, we should put these things to bid.
that?
What's the threshold going to be?
Well, generally speaking, it's somewhere around $5,000. So, I mean, we can talk about it, and this is obviously not gonna impact this project, but I think we need to keep that discussion open.
This was one of the things that was talked about, does it have to go out to bid and all that? And that's kind of when Jeff stepped up to the plate and offered to donate time and material, if I remember.
Well, I was gonna bring up that, you know, the amount, I don't have a problem if it does go up a bit. So somebody's gotta bid against that, you know, so, and I, you know.
Well, all of this work has been done before this board got in business, so,
Yeah,
I mean, rather than
reinvent the wheel.
recreating the wheel. But I think going forward, we should keep that in mind.
This is why I asked the question,
Yeah, I
because I'm
think we should have
sensitive
that
to
discussion
fairness,
as to
yes.
where the threshold is,
Yeah.
because while it's good to have bids on work, you
Send stuff out
can
for
drive
projects.
yourself
You get nothing.
around the racetrack multiple times and get nowhere trying to get bids in on relatively small work. What we want to do is we want to have good value for the town, for the dollar that we expend.
And we want to be able to justify that.
I'm sorry?
We want to be able to justify that. I mean, we'll talk about another piece of it when we get to the real one today.
Have you reviewed this paperwork?
I have, yeah, and
Anything else to add, gentlemen?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Just need
You
you,
got it.
okay, so we can call these people and get it rolling.
I'll entertain a motion from the board.
I'll move approval on the project.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. Everything clear? Your approval means I sign the documents. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Gentlemen, thank you for your efforts, it's appreciated.
Chip, this is some, that's some
You
background
certainly
from
did.
last year.
Okay.
The other board had it.
Yeah.
You can scan through that and it kind of brings you up to how and why it took place and how it transpired the way it did.
Appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Give you away. Take a read with this to know. Yeah, you're on that.
Gallagher's still sick.
No, he's right there.
Waiting for the smoke to clear.
It must be spring. He shaved off the beard.
Just signed where it said signature. Pass that around so you can look at it.
I think we all got a copy of this.
Yes,
Yep.
I included that and signed up.
Okay.
Clay, why don't you come in and have a seat?
Yeah.
Welcome to downtown Tuftonboro.
Sir?
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. And you can, if you want, you can rip the first 2 pages off, because that's kind of the outline. Morning and or afternoon.
Afternoon.
Welcome to the board. Our monthly totals for March, you can check on the specific shipments out, the first page there. We had 6 solid waste containers, 6 construction debris containers, and 2 plastic containers. We also swapped the tire container out, which is our yearly swap out. So we should be done with that now. We will hold it long enough to keep it until next year.
Till it's full.
Until it's full, hopefully, hopefully. We did ship a load of cardboard out and some rechargeable batteries out. The second page gives you the monthly total, the previous balance for the year, and the year-to-date totals. Just of interest and a note, the year-to-date totals are roughly the same as last year, so we're right on track as last year. A lot of that can be very, very weather dependent. We don't get a lot of shingles in the middle of snowstorms.
There's not a lot of roofing going on.
After that windstorm, we got a little bit, but both Selectman Wood and I met with Dave Jeffers and Jeff Hayes, who is the Executive Director of Lakes Region Planning Commission, located in Meredith. The meeting covered numerous topics. We went there, I think it was the beginning of last week or maybe the end of the week before. The first topic, and it's who we've been working with to change over to our household hazardous waste program, was household hazardous waste. We have been included in, as you can tell, on the last town there, we've been included, and this is our pamphlet, our collection dates. And it tells you all the items. It's a nice trifold pamphlet. We have them out at the transfer station. We need to fold them up into the little package, and then we'll give them out to people as they ask for them. It tells you the collection dates, the locations and times, and all the towns involved. And we went over the program itself, and Selectman Wood gave them a draft proposal for a sign, a nice sign to be made up. They're going to make it up for us. That includes all of the potential locations and times that we can drop off household hazardous waste, to include the Wolfboro facility. Noting that if we do go down to the Wolfboro facility, it'll be pay as you go. Okay. As far as the household hazardous waste dates, July 29th and August 5th, and the towns listed in the pamphlet, those are the 2 dates for drop-offs, and it's 10 gallons or 50 pounds of material. And again, as I talk to people, I tell everybody to make sure they consolidate if they can to get the most bang for the buck. The second topic we talked about, was brought up, was broadband installation. That goes to getting the internet hooked up at the transfer station. A lot of the options that we've gone through, trying to go through it for the last 5 years. Jeff Hayes, the executive director out there, knows a couple of individuals at UNH that are instrumental in the state's broadband expansion program. He's going to hook us up with them, set up a meeting where we can get together and discuss what options we have, and possibly if we could get any grant money and help from the state to get the internet out of the transfer station. So that's, we're waiting on Jeff Hayes to get back to us for the date and time of that meeting. The next topic we talked about was Northern Borders grant money possibility, and that has to do with the storage facility that we put on the
the CIP program a few years ago. We have delayed that pending the other buildings in line ahead of us. But there's some interesting possibilities with the Northern Borders program. We are in one of the southernmost towns of that program, or townships areas, and we could be eligible under that program for 50% grant money. So let's say the building costs $400,000, we could possibly get up to $200,000. As long as there's some level, and everybody loves the term recyclables, when you get into economic expansion and grants for economic expansion, recyclables is a good foot in the door. And if we can develop some kind of regional ties, like let's say we get together with Ossipee to do plastics, or we get together with Moltenboro to do aluminum cans, and we work some kind of a regional cooperation program involved, that further bolsters our case for that 50% grant money. So that's something for not short-term future, but near-term future.
I have some additional information. In last week's Granite State News, WEDCO is on April 7th at 1 to 3 o'clock at the Great Room in Wolfboro, is having Northern Borders people come in and explain what it was all about. I went to it last year, and if one of you would like to go to it, I think it'd be very educational.
April 7th?
April 7th, 1 to 3. And there's actually 4 different areas that the town could benefit. It has to be economic or safety oriented. And one of them that caught my eye was his operation. Another one is, as you know, the fire and police are continuing having radio problems.
So that's this Friday?
I believe so.
Yes.
I'd be available. Unless you want to, I mean.
Go ahead.
And the LRPC people are really nice. And, it struck me from this meeting, very much proactive in wanting to help accomplish everything required to get that grant money and to get that expansion of economics and economic growth.
Well, one of the challenges that small towns like ours have is, I know that there are numerous grant opportunities out there, but in order to get grants, you have to be able to write grants. And the towns that compete most effectively are towns that have on staff full-time planners, people that do this as a part of their normal job. We're a small, lean town, so we don't have either the hours available among staff or the experience there to drive these things. So it's great to have somebody like LRPC that can partner with us and help us pursue some of that.
And hook us up with it. A lot of the universities and colleges have professional grant writers, and that's all they do in their program. And they'll hook us up with people that can assist us in doing that. The last paragraph D, 2D there, we voted on a few weeks ago to do a cost center analysis, or have LRPC do a cost center analysis, total cost center analysis of the transfer station. They contacted me, they came up, I gave them tons of information as far as the operational aspects of the facility, the labor and the operations and the efficiency and time and manpower. And they're awaiting information from the administrative side of the house as far as money and allocation and administrative time, that kind of thing from Diane. So once they get that, then they'll be all set to crank out the final version, and they'll tell us and get together and meet with us.
Excuse me.
While I was there, I found out, because I didn't have a computer for quite a few days, I found out that LRPC had asked me to give a presentation at a solid waste roundtable meeting hosted by LRPC, and training credit being given by New Hampshire DES at the Meredith Community Center on last Thursday. I found out Wednesday and said okay, and it was called the Lakes Region Solid Waste Roundtable, and basically this is a recap of the agenda. Hence, that's why I cleaned up and couldn't go and give a presentation. You're the one there, so. Mike Dufour from the director of NRA, who we deal with a little bit now, gave the first presentation, and that was the big picture, if you will, and he discussed in intricate detail the ramifications of contracting with trucking companies, with waste management, with Casella, what their game plan is, how they try to get everything they can get, and how you need to be cautious when you enter contracts, and you know, a $2 difference or a 1% difference per year can add up to big dollars very quickly in years 4, 5, and 6 for the program. So you have to just be cautious. But and he, you know, he piqued the interest of you know, regional districts or solid waste districts, or you know, single stream recyclable districts. And then the second speaker was Remy Reagan Pride. He was from the solid waste district, Penny Baker Solid Waste District, and what that is a co-op, exactly what we were talking about, a co-op for solid waste, and it includes, probably 15 or 20 townships spread out, not all contiguous, some of them offset out in different directions, but primarily the west and northwest part of the state. And they do a lot of the contracting for solid waste pickup and delivery, centralized, that's effective for all. And it's a good way of you know, keeping costs down. Like you say, getting to the core of where the experts are that can negotiate and make those deals, and it benefits small towns, and it can benefit small towns like us. Not everybody has the time or the energy or the effort to try to get the most bang for the buck. So he was a second speaker, and then they wanted the exposure to others of what we as Tuftonboro do, because Mike had been here and DES had been here and used us as a training location for one of their seminars of how to do things. He wanted me to go over and verbalize what we do here at Tuftonboro. There was about 30 people there, probably 5 or 6 selectmen from different towns, and the rest were you know, either public works or solid waste transfer station operators. And New Hampshire DES gave 2 hours credit for the class. It was about an hour of presentations, and then there was a good hour of discussion. And again, it's like I relayed to them, when I first took this job, the first thing I did was hit the road to try to hit 5 or 6 different locations, and my objective was to go out and find out how to do it right. And what I rapidly found out was how, you know, in each location that I went to, I glommed onto something immediately of how we'll never do it that way. and everybody was nodding their head because they all have the same thing. So collectively, and getting, you know, working together as a co-op, if we could do stuff with Ossipee, if we could do stuff with Wolfboro, if we could do stuff with Moultonboro, you know, I think that could be our economic advantage. And I think, you know, the storage facility and having something like that may lead us into that approach. So there may be stuff like,
An example of that is what you do with the glass, right?
exactly,
Wakefield is kind of a regional center for the glass.
Right.
So everybody's glass goes in there and gets
and it
processed.
gives us the opportunity to do it at $30 a ton versus trucking it all the way down someplace else and paying $80 a ton, which then it wouldn't be worth doing.
Plus you have a material that's useful to the road.
Right,
Coming back.
right. So, and when I first, one of the places I went was a dual purpose visit, was to Keene. And Keene has a facility that's on the side of a hill. It's very discombobulated. But the one thing that struck me was they had 4 or 5 towns that were feeding them material. Like 3 or 4 towns, one of them even in Vermont, was bringing over their plastics.
Right.
And dumping them there, paying them $10 a ton to dump the plastics there. It was a good deal for Vermont, cheaper to get rid of than going through the process we go through. So they got rid of it for $10 a ton. Keene got all the material. They bought a conveyor belt, they bought a line, they put up and they operated the line 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, went through and sorted number 1 plastics, number 2 plastics, number 3. They baled 1 and 3, and the rest, 1 through 7 other than 1 and 3. Then they baled that together, so they had 3 different commodity prices. And for 1 and 3, you get a lot of money. For the rest of it, you don't get a whole lot, but at least they were getting something. We could do something similar here. If we had a facility that we could store. We could also, change over a little bit of how we do business. And our oldest vertical baler is old. It's not going to be around that much longer. We could go to 1 vertical baler and maybe a horizontal baler, extend the roof line out the back, have pits, where we get more bang for the buck out of our employee and our machinery. When I take Barry, you're on the Bobcat today, for the first 5 hours today, you're going to be baling material. And there's enough material to bale plastic into the vertical or horizontal baler, boom, done. That's done. Now do a bale of aluminum. Now do a bale of steel. Now do a bale of cardboard. It's just organization, time management, efficiencies that exceed what we have now because it's more material than what we have. So that's where the discussion tended to drive to, and so it was a good meeting. It went very well. Our NRA conference is again May 22nd and 23rd in Manchester. That's a Monday and Tuesday. We send everybody down there on Monday. And the last topic I wanted to talk about was we are scheduled to be closed on Easter. I'd like to float an opportunity by and see if you would be interested in doing it. We'd like to give the opportunity. 2 of the 3 guys who would like to work on that Sunday because their spouses are working someplace else would like to work a half a day on Sunday. So it'll be the holiday would be taken and then they'd work a half a day. So they'd get half a day's pay and a holiday. We'd like to open 8 to noon on Easter Day.
I have no problem with that, especially after the storm where you gotta get rid of some stuff.
We have done that in the past.
When is Easter?
That's 15.
2 weeks.
First Sunday after the full moon, after the equinox.
Yes.
Right.
We've done it before on different holidays where it falls like that. And we've worked the whole day with minimal manning. And it really, it helps people, especially the contractor. So right now, I'm all set up to close and be closed, but I told the 2 individuals that I would bring it forward and put it before the board, see if you would.
Yeah, I don't know how effective 8 to noon is for time periods. Would the afternoon be?
Well, their spouses are working in the morning, so that's why they were.
Wolfboro does Sunday mornings.
Yeah,
I don't know about holidays, but they,
yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
I
Wait, on a normal Sunday, our traffic is very minimal until about 8:30. And then it gets real busy from about 10:30 to 11:30. And then it slows down and then it gets real busy again at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we hit the after church crowd for sure, and get them, so.
I think it makes sense.
Hours are better.
Yep.
Sure.
Try open for half a day and, you know, it may be that it will either reinforce that
this
Easter's
works.
not a good day to be open because
Right.
people are doing other things, or it works.
Okay.
A couple of things. Who is the gentleman you contacted to get permission to have the trucks come to, over the roads? You had to get permission? Because of-
It's Madden, I think.
Okay, no, anyway, it worked because when the roads were closed, you have to get permission from the state to bring these heavy trucks in, right?
Right, yeah, it was, well, Matt from here,
Yep.
our state district, and then they referred me to a Todd Mason, out of Guilford, and then Mason's out of Wakefield. And he's kind of the regional representative. Yeah, that brings up a good point, because our cardboard, in January, the price of cardboard was $80 a ton. It went up to $160 a ton in February. In March, it was $210 a ton. And it went back down now to $80 a ton. We got it chipped out by luck, just by happenstance.
Pays to go to church, so.
Now that I bring it up, our next one will probably get shafted, but we got it for $187.50 a ton. So that shipment that was on the log there was $4,100.
And can I bring up another subject?
Okay.
Several citizens have asked me, could we have an amnesty day or a no-charge day for brush disposal from Storm Stella?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You know, we'll eat it a little bit, but that's okay. You know, I think it's still too early to do that. I think, you know, maybe the Saturday before the Sunday we're open, the Saturday before Easter maybe. I think we need to let the snow go away a little bit and let people get up, but we would be willing to do that. But I think
Does the board?
It's like everything
Does
else.
the board have a problem with that?
I think it's our decision, isn't it?
Yeah.
What?
It is our decision, and I think it's a good idea. However, I would say whenever it's planned, it needs to be planned sufficiently in advance so that we can make that day broadly known to people in town.
Right, and on the intent, see, this is what always happens with everything. The best intentions, and you're gonna have, you know, a commercial guy come up with a 40-yard dumpster full of brush. You know, it's not, the intent is for us to service the homeowner with a freebie. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, you're gonna have half the waste management trucks coming in with brush on them. So I think we have to be careful about how we, you know, I don't want to be a downer, but I do, like Christmas, we always do free trees.
Can you put together a little announcement that we can then put out? You're more familiar with people that come in and
Right.
the people that may want to take advantage of it beyond.
Yeah,
where the
it's a
intent is.
personal use, personal brush disposal, gratis for cleanup from the
It
storm.
would be nice if other towns did the same thing, so we aren't being a brush magnet, but.
Well, there's gotta be some control over it goes to our transfer station. I thought that would.
Right,
we do
and that would be my only caution, is once you open the door a little bit, sometimes the door can hit you in the face.
Well, at some point in time, we should talk about commercial disposal, because I don't think you're currently charging for anything.
For what?
Commercial haulers coming in. I mean, you mentioned waste management coming in with loads of brush or something.
Oh, no,
So
we don't have.
40-yard dumpster with a load of brush, I mean, that's a commercial operation.
Yeah, we charge the commercial guys, the guys, the contractors that come up and work on the house, and, we charge them.
Yeah, I know you had C&D.
Right.
all that.
And our usage chart is on the website. And we went over that pretty heavily 4 years ago. It was 3 years or 4 years ago. And we got ourselves paired fairly close, not, so we weren't eating TVs from other towns.
Right.
And I know that you monitor that.
We monitor that.
Anything else for?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item of business is review and approval of the 3/27/17 minutes. And I have a correction. Thank you, Clyde.
Yep.
You want me to come back to it later, or?
No, it's fine.
Go
I
ahead.
just had one correction.
Yep.
In the first major paragraph that starts Mark Howard,
Yes?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down. Federal aid, is that how it starts?
Yes?
Eligible road, and is no, I think she meant longer
Oh, yeah, thank
as
you.
opposed to lower.
Mhm.
That was all I saw.
Go ahead, sir.
I don't have anything else.
Is there a motion to accept as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next, continued business. First thing is board committee assignments. I typed up all the committees.
So you're gonna stay on the planning board, Bill?
I'm fine with it.
What I did do is put down, Bill and I are on, so, but that can change.
So that just leaves whatever's left, right?
Yes.
I
Well,
get it.
it's up to us to decide and switch around or whatever, so, and I'm flexible, so.
Well, I don't mind being on the budget committee if that's where I end up. And,
Okay. Are you on the energy commission?
I am,
Can you put you there?
that's fine. And I'm also on old home days, but I'll be for that.
the other thing that was brought up was the liaison with the office.
Yep. I had the welfare and emergency closing as two things.
Where's that?
I added it after I typed it in there. It has worked well in the past. What happens is Diane gets an emergency situation on a Friday and needs to call somebody. And in the past, what we've done is we have no problem with her to, reach a point person.
Well, I don't mind doing the welfare.
Okay.
And we did the same thing as far as emergency closing. We did it twice this year. We have a emergency closing policy,
Right.
and
And agriculture?
We don't currently have a rep on the agricultural commission. You're
Is
sort of
it-
agriculture guy, right?
Currently I am.
Here,
Historically, I haven't
It
been.
is actually just starting up,
Maybe we should wait and see how they make out.
Yeah.
Are they getting members?
yes.
yes.
An old home day?
That's Bill.
I have been doing it, if you wanna take it over, that's fine.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Parks and Rec was, Carolyn was doing that, so that's an open.
Okay, I'll take that one. So I've got budget, Parks and Rec, welfare,
Yep.
and we'll leave agricultural for, in case you have a change of heart, or actually farm. It's good.
So the assignments I have is agriculture, Aldi, budget, Aldi,
See, I already got that.
CIP committee, Marcusson, conservation, Wood, energy, Marcusson, joint loss management, Marcusson, milfoil control, Marcusson, old home days, Marcusson, parks and recreation, Aldi, planning board, Marcusson, TAC, Wood, Mirror Lake Watershed Committee, Wood, and welfare, Aldi.
That's good.
Next is board meeting schedule.
Okay,
Anybody have any thoughts?
well,
I'm flexible.
I know when I came on the board last year, I had the idea that having a meeting every week made a lot of sense. And at that time, we talked about it, and I was persuaded that what we've been doing, which is 3 meetings a month, 3 regular meetings a month, handled the ongoing requirement of the town well. So I don't feel any particular, having been on the board for a year, I don't feel any particular need to increase the frequency of our regular meetings. Just my observation and opinion.
I guess I'll just restate what I said last time, is that if we don't have a regular scheduled meeting every week, then we need to figure out how we're gonna do the business of the town. And we have to come in here on Friday and sign checks, we have to look at the mail, we have certain signatures that are required. This week we've got a right to know request and those are all time sensitive.
Yeah.
So whether or not we have these extensive meetings like today's on a 3-week-a-month basis and have 1 week a month where it's just review the mail and get public input. I mean, I don't know how we can govern and not be here because we can't meet outside of here. For instance, on the right to know, if this were the week when we weren't meeting, we'd be well past the 5-day period of response before we met, and we can't make a decision on that without meeting.
Correct.
And I don't like relying on the attorney-client privilege as our way of subverting the open meeting platform. Because I think it just gets overused, and maybe it's appropriate, but it doesn't have good optics. So, I mean, my suggestion would be that we schedule a Friday meeting on that week that's open and schedule it in the morning or whenever you want to do it, and then just, we'll come in, sign checks and open the mail and do whatever business is available, but.
I like the idea of, this is a $9 million business. That's what the cash flow is in this town. And you guys have extensive backgrounds in private business and public business. There are things that come up. I mean, we'll get out of here tonight. By tomorrow morning, there's something that, whoops, wish we had covered or something like that. I agree with what you say. I personally would have no problem meeting every Monday. That's 4, maybe 5 Mondays a month. Yes, there are some holidays that legally we can't. And I like the idea, you've coined the word optics. I have no problem that way. I also have no problem with having an agenda for Friday that we come in and sign. We all got to be here, and we sign the checks, and we do 1 or 2 particular things. Job performance reviews. We're going to have reviewing compensation where we can focus right in on it. The other thing is, we're not here for 3 and 4 and 5 hours.
Right. I mean, it's, a lot of it too could be cleaned up. I mean, this, one of your things on the continued business is the non-public minutes. I mean, that's.
It's a
gonna take-
perfunctory thing, right?
Well, we need to discuss it, and it may be something that we need to put on to a meeting specific for that. Or
Yes.
1 or 2 things like that. Because a couple of them, or a few of them are very, should apparently have never been sealed. I don't know why they were. But some of them, it's, you need to redact some information,
Yes.
etc.
But can I also toss out something else? Is, there has been some criticism that our past boards didn't meet at 7 o'clock. Would it be appropriate for, over the next 4 months, that the last Friday of the month, we meet at 7 o'clock in a different section of town?
You mean somebody's house?
Tadero Center at Merrill Lake, Women's Workers Hall in Melvin, Fire Station in Center Tuftonboro, the church in Tuftonboro Corner. What I'll do is when I toss that out and just let it ferment, okay?
Good idea. I think, I don't have a problem with meeting at 7 o'clock at night. I don't have a problem with meeting somewhere other than here. I might have a problem meeting at a commercial site such as the Tedeschi Center or whatever that is. But any, the fire station, etc. But if you got a plan, put it together. Do we not have a meeting scheduled for next week? I guess that would be the next question.
We do not have meetings next week, right?
Yes. First of all,
No, that's wrong. We do have a meeting next week. We don't have a meeting on the 17th.
17th.
Okay, so we can,
The 17th, if we're going to have a meeting, needs to be a little bit before
right.
the 4 o'clock hour. I have no problem in the morning because the Conservation Commission meets at 6:30 and they use this road.
All right, let's mull it over until
Yep.
next, and then we'll
All
make
right.
a firm decision next week. But I'd like to think that we need.
I'd like to address something else. I will meet at any time anybody wants to meet, and I know you have, and I know you have. Perfect example today was in scheduling things. When we started at 2 o'clock, that was to accommodate the people who were coming in.
Right.
No, it's not because we're closed-minded about something. So, but I'm sensitive to it was talked about at town meeting that where about our meeting times. So.
Well, and historically, that word has gotten out that I'm happy to meet with anybody anytime. Unfortunately, and we're going to come up against it here in a couple of minutes, is decisions made by one selectman as opposed to by the board. And we can't meet unless it's a notice meeting.
That's right.
As far as I'm concerned.
And we haven't.
We can't be making decisions out there sua sponte, and we have to be
Exactly.
working as a board. Okay. That's a little Latin for you, Steve.
When do we want to meet to go over 9 non-public meetings?
We're getting together Friday morning, is that right?
Don't we
We
have
have a work session on Friday morning?
But isn't it this Friday the,
No.
Quarters is 1 to 3.
is this Friday the
No, that's next Friday.
14th?
The 14th is
No,
the
this
next
Friday
Friday.
is the 7th.
Yeah, this Friday we were having a work session in the morning.
It better not be the 14th.
Okay. Friday we will meet at what time?
That was good for you, 10 o'clock? 9 o'clock?
9
Yeah,
o'clock?
9's fine.
And what's the agenda?
Non-public minutes.
And do we also have some job performance reviews to do?
We do.
Okay.
We have 2 of those.
Yep.
So we'll have to go into a 91A session.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
This is my thought, and I realize that we have to be in a legal meeting that's posted and then go into non-public. I kinda would like to not have a lot of other things dumped on us unless, it's an emergency. So I don't want people to think that,
Well, we have to come back into public in order to seal the minutes, if you're going to seal the minutes on a job review, so you gotta be back into public session after. And so,
my thought is that this is a work session and we keep it pretty narrow.
well, we can keep the agenda narrow, I think we should continue to call them selectmen meetings, so,
Okay.
because we'll do what we're gonna do.
Our next item is Brown Road.
I visited Brown Road after our last meeting. We all know it's a 3-rod road, so it's 49.5 feet wide, the right-of-way. It could be that the roadway, the right of travel is on one side or another of the 49.5 feet. But it doesn't inure to the benefit of the property owner, if that's the case, for it to move all the way to the west, meaning away from Lower Beach Pond, to accommodate for where they put the rocks. Because if that's the case, then we've got about a 30-foot area on the south side of or the west side of the road that the town has a right-of-way, and we can put a parking lot there. I don't know how you guys got, or I know how you got into this mess, but my personal feeling is that we need to direct the road agent to go take the rocks out. Because it's in our right of way and it's interfering with access to Lower Beach Pond.
Did you bring this up in your latest correspondence?
There are a couple of RSAs that specifically speak to this. 23127 has to deal with boundary lines on town highways. And it reads, the selectmen may reestablish the boundary lines, limits, and locations of any highway or any part thereof which shall have become lost, uncertain, or doubtful. So it seems to me like that is specifically the situation we're talking about now, when people are saying, well, we don't know exactly where the property line is. When I go up and I look at that section of Brown Road, just based upon standing and looking down the road, you've got stone walls and that sort of thing running along there. And it's reasonable to believe that that's where the right-of-way is, that people's stone walls are along the edge of the right-of-way. Now, these boulders are placed closer to the road than the stone walls further down the road. Whether the existing paved road is exactly in the middle of the original right-of-way as it was done 170 years ago, or whatever it was, I think is sort of beside the point. The area that's used as public area, you can see by eyeballing down through there. And clearly where these boulders are set now are within an area that has traditionally been available as the sides of the road.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, as far as I can recall, and I've been here an awful long time, is that road's been there as a traveled way. So if the presumption is that the center of the road is the center of the right-of-way, then we have quite a lot of distance on the Lower Beach Pond side. I mean, if we want to negotiate with this, the problem I have with it is that this is all done without a vote of the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
And now we find ourselves in a quagmire.
Well, I would
So-
suggest I agree with what you're saying, which is the boulders need to go. And that what we ought to do is send correspondence to the owner telling them that they need to go, and that, and providing some period of time for them to be removed, or we can direct the road agent to give him an opportunity to correct the error before we just go in and move them. And if he doesn't within that period of time, then we can have the road agent move. That's my suggestion.
If I understand correctly, that road is going to be repaved, not this coming year, but the year after.
By the road agent.
Right. And as I drive by there, I've gone by in snowstorms, the snow plows come one way, I've gone the other. Right now, no, it's not a narrow road. The bridge is narrower, where there's a telephone pole and a tree is narrower than the right-of-way. I was by there the other day, excuse me, not the other day, a couple of months ago, and there were 11 vehicles there, 4 with trailers, and it was still open to two-way traffic. So, you know, it's not a pending safety.
No, I think it's a matter of access. I mean, I guess I appreciate what Bill has been saying about notification. The other issue in my mind, and maybe this case doesn't play into it, but I mean, we have an enormous amount of legal bills here in this town. And part of the reason we have that is because of situations like this. And I can foresee, or like the right to know case that's coming out, I can foresee notification and then his attorney gets involved because his attorney's already written a letter.
Sure.
And now our attorney has to get involved, and all of a sudden the legal bills start flying back and forth. So I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that we have certain rights as, you know, the selectmen and our responsibilities. And I mean, we can notify the guy, but I just want to put everybody on notice that we're creating a situation where we're going to have some more legal bills to pay. And I think we need to try to avoid those if we can possibly do it. I don't see a lot of value in supporting the attorneys of the world, even though I may
Yes.
one, but
Do either of you have anything else to offer?
On that,
I'd like to break with tradition. Would the board allow me to open it up to the public and sort of have, I don't want to say have a hearing, but anybody who would like to speak on this? There's a lot of passion and a lot of opinions.
sure.
Okay, do I have your permission? And I'm breaking a tradition here, so. Anyone from the public like to speak? Just give your name to the secretary.
Karen, it's Chris. I agree with what Selectman Albee has just stated. The town obviously has incurred a lot of legal fees. This is another one of those quagmire situations. I believe that the information that Bill has brought forward with the RSA, I believe gives the selectmen the opportunity to take care of the situation in a prompt, timely, and as least costly as possible at this point manner. And it would go a long way to help the situation here in town. I know, I appreciate everything you three are saying. I've been watching your meetings, the two, and it's, you know, it's refreshing, and I think doing this would be a prudent and fiscally responsible way of taking care of the situation, because you do have under the RSA the ability to do so.
Anybody else? I saw you. Go ahead.
Hidden Valley development was surveyed. There are survey plans on record. They located the right-of-way. There should be pins along the Hidden Valley property owner's side of the road, marking the lot corners. That could be not too difficult to
just a
find.
metal detector.
A little metal detector. I don't think there's any doubt the selectmen have the authority to keep the roadways open, the rights of ways open. And I don't quite get, if I'm the landowner who put the rocks there and the selectmen tell me they'd like me to move them by a certain date, otherwise we will remove them. Why would I move them? Why wouldn't I just wait and have the town move them? You know, it just doesn't What's his motivation to move them if you give him the option? Does he want to keep them? I don't know. Seems like extra time and money. Effort.
Anybody else?
Stephen, so I'd just like to say there's limited access for the general public to get on any of the waterways in the state, and to remove one in a capricious fashion is just wrong. We ought to get the rocks out of there.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I think you should just remove the rocks and be done with it. Sending a letter to the owner is just gonna incur more legal fees.
Well, we may not avoid legal fees even if we do it like that, but I just, the reason I brought that up is that I don't like to set a situation up for more lawyering than is necessary.
You want to do a little more research on it and report back to us?
Sure.
Okay.
The ice is still out. I'll report to you next week. Okay.
Selectmen's updates.
Sandy Knoll Road.
What, I'm sorry, Sandy Knoll Road, correct.
Bill was gonna.
Yep, here's what I can tell you about that. Sandy Knoll is a Class 6 road, and as with all town roads, the selectmen are responsible for the maintenance of town roads, including those that are not maintained. The selectmen have, anybody who wants to improve a non-maintained road, a Class 6 road, has to receive permission from the governing body to improve it. The improvements were made on Sandy Knoll to access the Whitten excavation pit were done according to a site plan that was approved by the planning board, with engineering work on the road that was done by an independent engineering firm, and the installation of that was monitored by a separate engineering firm to ensure that it was done in accordance with the plan. The improvement that was done in accordance with the engineering work. The town does not have a requirement to maintain that section of road. It will be privately maintained by the abutter that did the improvements, and they were done with the permission of the town.
But it's still a public right of way,
It is.
not subject to gates and bars.
Well, all Class 6 roads are subject to gates and bars.
If they're voted on.
No. One of the provisions of the law with respect to Class 6 roads is that an abandoned public road is subject to gates and bars. That particular provision has been in the law since back in the days when cattle roam free and that sort of thing. And Class 6 roads are still subject to gates and bars. However, those gates cannot be locked. And access through the gates cannot be prevented to anybody, not just abutters, to anybody. And it's still a public road. The fact that that section of Sandy Knoll was improved doesn't impinge on the rights of anybody to use the road.
The improvements,
Nor does it create a requirement for the town to do maintenance on the road.
the improvements that were made by what was required by the state of New Hampshire to make it a safe truck entrance and exit. And safe drainage. The only way that Tuftonboro got involved is we legally own the road.
Right.
Didn't cost us.
So how far in did the improvements go? Because that's just, you're talking about the state. I mean, did the improvements go in a ways?
Yeah, not a lot of ways, but
It was part of the 1999 Gene Whitten Trust, and it only just went up to the very top of the hill, just right there, and you can actually almost see it right from 109A.
Okay.
And that was just because they had to, for site distance, to get the site distance on 109A. That's the reason why. And the other reason the planning board actually made the recommendation and insisted that they pave that was for the washout because of, for that. But other than that, that was totally from the applicant. And they did that, and they said that they were going to maintain it themselves, just that one section. And like I said, it ends like right at the top of the hill there.
Because there's also, I know, Wayne Perkins has a field up there, the
Yes.
Hayes, so access is,
Yes.
for other people,
Mhm.
this is just as important. And we're making affirmative that the town is going to maintain that right of way. We're not going to bring forward some motion at town meeting to abandon the road. Because the other question is across the street.
I'm not aware of any requirement for the town to maintain anything.
No, but we could vote to have that road completely discontinued.
It's already a class 6
Yeah.
road.
To revert back to the property owners on both sides.
oh,
Oh, no, I don't know.
I haven't lived in town all that long, but I'm not aware of any former town roads that were totally discontinued and reverted to property
Only
owners.
one is a short section by the beach that she worked on for a long time, because the road used to go down around the beach, and that had to legally be voted on to not be a public way.
So how do we address the issues across the road from the Whitten pit?
What issues across the road?
Wasn't there Holmberg wanted to mine the road and move the road and do some other things?
That's no longer an issue.
Okay.
He was unhappy that the improvements were made on the existing road rather than moving the road onto his land. Right, but that's ancient history.
Move on.
Okay. Selectmen's update.
I went and looked at the tree. I guess that was my job.
You're the tree sheriff?
Down on 87,
47.
is it 47?
Yeah.
47, Union Wharf Road. It is a big tree. It's on that person's property. I looked at the tax map, and, I mean, I didn't survey it, but it certainly appears to be on his property. It appears to be perfectly healthy. And I don't know if fear of big trees is another condition, but it has a small house, so I imagine it would probably destroy it if it fell on it, but it's not really the town's responsibility. I guess it would be within the right of way, but it's not dead. I don't know.
It's not a danger to,
No, and it's on the inside of the curve, so it's not something that somebody's gonna run into with a car, because generally they go to the outside of the curve. It's just a very big pine tree. So if you wanna discuss cutting it down, we can, but I guess pine trees aren't sentient beings, are they?
That's right.
it's kind of a dead issue, right?
No, I
But
think
trees
we
could
have to
communicate to
do
each other. I thought trees could communicate.
No.
I've got a couple of things I want to know. I went to a workshop on town roads put on by the Municipal Association last Friday morning. And I provided you with some kind of bullet points that I pulled out of the presentation. It was a good meeting. There were probably 50, 60 people in the room from towns and cities all over the state. some of them public works and road agents, and some of them governing body folks. As with any of these workshops that I go to, I always come back with some kernels of information that are new to me, some ideas that I haven't encountered before. We talked a little bit about reestablishing road boundaries, which is one of the things that they discussed. It's a clear legal process, but if we're going to do that, it involves a lot of correspondence, certified letters, notices, and all that kind of thing. So, you know, it's not as simple as saying the selectmen are reestablishing the road. No, I mean, it has to, and that sets up, going through that process, probably at least as much back and forth and legal involvement as sending a property owner a notice. We did talk about different areas of responsibility as it relates to roads, planning board's responsibility with respect to roads and new subdivision site and site plans, and how that differs from governing body responsibility for the layout and acceptance of new roads and maintenance of existing roads. There was some talk about, or some discussion about access into new subdivisions that is solely out of another municipality and how that gets dealt with. I'm not aware that we're potentially facing anything like that, but with respect to building on Class 6 and private roads, and that's something that comes up on an ongoing basis, questions here and other places. There are 3 specific things have to happen in order to be able to build on a Class 6 road. First, it has to go through review with the planning board, review and comment by them. The governing body, which is the selectmen, have to specifically authorize the issuance of building permits on the Class 6 road or a portion of that road. My understanding is we don't have to approve every building permit that comes in for a road. But if somebody wants to build a house, for instance, or some structure on Sandy Knoll Road, building permit cannot be approved unless the governing body has voted to authorize the issuance of building permits on that road. And the third thing that has to happen is that limits of municipal responsibility and liability must be recorded on the deed at the registry of deeds for that piece of property. I know last year when we were, there was discussion about selling some of these tax deeded properties, and there was concern that some of them, because they're way back off of Class 6 roads, somebody's going to want to come in and develop it. And that's it. That is possible, but it's not guaranteed. And one of the ways that you make sure that people don't misunderstand about that, just like on seasonal Class 5 roads, is you make sure it's in the deed, so that nobody is unclear about the fact that maintenance responsibility and liability are limited. Another thing with respect to building on lots, and there seems to be some confusion from time to time, is that you cannot build off a right-of-way. Property has to abut some sort of road. So if you have a piece of landlocked property and you only have a right-of-way back into it, the state law does not allow building on that property. It has to be some sort of road into it.
Yeah, you have to build a road on your right of way.
Or you have to, right, there has to be something other than a right of way across somebody else's property in order to build on your property that's landlocked. I already mentioned with respect to the Class 6 roads that selectmen can do maintenance on Class 6 roads if we declare it an emergency lane. But this is not full maintenance, this is maintenance necessary in order to provide emergency access.
This was done a few years ago on Wilman Road,
Yep, I
Island
remember
Road,
that.
and Federal Corner Road. The former fire chief got a grant to trim the bushes and the trees, just so it was a fire breakthrough. They didn't fill any of the ruts in or anything like that, but he got a grant to take out the wood.
So, anyway, those are some of the high points with respect to the workshop, so always beneficial. Two other things that I would like to mention. One is, I want to note with sadness the passing of Steve Honeycutt, who was town sexton. He passed, I believe it was last Thursday. I got to know him a little bit since he stepped up and got involved with the town. Great guy, but fairly recently came down with a terminal illness, and just was a very short time before he passed. So certainly my thoughts for his wife and family.
Our condolences.
Condolences. And the other thing that I want to bring up is when we changed banks from People's Bank to Meredith Village, we have credit card accounts for police and fire department, and they're still at People's Bank, and that doesn't make any sense to me that we would continue that relationship rather than changing it over to do that with our current bank.
Can you work on that project?
I will, yeah. That's all I have.
I mentioned April 7th is the Wolfboro Great Hall is the North Quarter with Wedco. Since I talked to you last, I met with Mark Howard, C.R. Willicke, Todd Nason, Peter York, Glenn Cordelli, and Bill Rollins from the state. We toured the three areas of concern, Tuftonboro Corner, that intersection, 109, 109A, and the water flooding problem that continues, I'll call it Mirror Lake Narrows. And these people are helpful. There's some things they can do, there's some things they can't do. Mark will get back to us on where that is. These people are willing to work with the town of Tuftonboro, and it's a compliment to them. And you mentioned Steve Honeycutt. That's it for Selectmen's update. Under correspondence. Notice to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals, semi-annual billing. It's been sent by our tax collector. Chief Thompson inquired as to whether or not his part-time staff should sign off on having read the full personnel policy as it contains information for full-time employee benefits, etc. I suggested that it may be reasonable to just have them sign off on policies that would be applicable to them. For example, the new alcohol policy and the harassment policy. Please advise how to proceed. Sincerely, Karen. Any thoughts from the board?
I guess my thought is that sounds like a reasonable approach. The sections that deal with non-full-time employees are the ones that they ought to
Right?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd edit it quite that specifically. I don't know, who are we putting in charge of this editing? I mean, I think all the employees, even the selectmen should be familiar with the employee manuals, so that we're all playing by the same set of rules, so. I'd feel better if it was, what parts does he want to exempt from their review? Does he have some list?
Okay, Karen, can you work on that for us?
Just
Okay.
ones that pertain to full-time employees specifically.
Okay. Next is a letter of appreciation from Ryan Ridley, Fire Chief in Alton, for the fire department's assistance. This is from the Division of Homeland Security, a memo on March 29th, Storm Watch. Andy Shigori has recertified as toxilizer operator. This is from the Fence and Guardrail Company. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to notify you that we'll be replacing substandard cable and beam guardrail along 109 from just south of Fulton Shore Road to just north of Route 109A. Project begins April 5th and slated to be completed in June. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Lorraine Slitter. This is a memo from Tammy Gelinas, reference New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank eliminates borrowing fees. Correspondence sent to Andy from John Kerrigan. It's about bike safety, encouraging bike safety. It's the spring newsletter. Correspondence from the New Hampshire Municipal Association. It's the news link pamphlet that they make available with the courses that are available. This is from David Jeffers, Carroll County RCC meeting, April 4th. The Carroll County Regional Coordinating Council for Transportation will be held April 4th at 1:30 p.m. at Northway Bank on Route 16 in Ossipee. Next correspondence is from Vicki Ayer. DRA mini courses available. Two of the courses available are a 3-hour course on exemption and veterans tax credits and timber tax and excavation tax, both 3 hours. This is a March 24th letter from James St. Jean, an auctioneer. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. He runs auctions for towns. He's included a brochure to read. This is from Primex, a course on confronting incivility, how to tackle bad behavior in the workplace. Robin Hoyt, Coffee and Conversations. This is the UNH Public Administration Program, Managing Workplace Crises. It's an April 12th date. This is from March 24th from Charter Communications. Dear Municipal Official, this letter is to inform you that the Charter Communications will be making programming changes that will impact customers in your area. The changes are as follows. April 25th, Esquire, Channel 114 will no longer be available. The same date, Chiller, Channel 127 will no longer be available. We remain committed to providing excellent communications and entertainment services in all the communities we serve. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. Shelley Wichenbach. inventory of a property transfer. This is for 48 Mirror Lake Drive, sold for its assessed price of $32,000. Eversource, these are pole licenses to whom it may concern. Poles are as followed, and there's an attachment listing the 95 poles. It's normal correspondence. This is a wetland permit. It's for a docking structure repair at Lake Road. This is for replacing the concrete boat ramp which has deteriorated. This gets included with
So we
the
voted on,
boat ramp.
right?
That was quick. Make sure Jack gets that, please. This is Energy Star, upcoming training with Energy Star. The art and science of writing job descriptions, Primex training. Pardon?
Nothing.
Uh,
Slow it down.
Transfer Station, thanks Dave, enjoyed the opportunity as a group. I think everyone took something away from it. Thank you for the roundtable discussion that I was involved in. David Owen, just a reminder, the next meeting of the Upper Region Select Boards will be at the Tuftonboro Fire Station. Jeff Hayes from Lakes Region Planning will be there. The topic is of aggregating our electricity purchase will be talked about. I'll be there in Tuftonboro Times report. I started on some things for signature file and I'll get back to them. This is for the Agricultural Commission. It's for the appointment of Dinah Farrell, Diana, D-I-N-A-F-A-R-R-E-L-L, and Karen Nemeth, N-E-M-E-T-H, to the Agricultural Commission. Mike Hager, H-A-E-G-E-R, and their term expires June 2020. What would the board like to do?
Move approval?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next item of business, would the selectmen please do one motion to approve all yield taxes. The PIDs are 211, 2311, 59220, and 1623. You want me to read the names? For 43.
I don't need the names, but I'm certainly welcome to.
Okay, for $434 and change, lot 2311, Perchanski. The next one is for $2,820, Robert and Joyce Wood, lot 48220. The third one is for $1,613 and change, Alan and Jeanette Blazek, 1623. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. And I won't sign the second one. It's a family matter.
Go.
Next signature needed is the intent to cut. This is 1623 Blazek and Perchanski 2311.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Have about 25 requests for change in employee compensation. Do you want me to go through each one individually? Have you folks read these?
I've looked through them.
These are all our full and part-time employees and their new pay rates that they get paid retroactively.
Retroactive to the first of the year.
Right, I've gone, there's one that, there's a couple whose job titles have changed in the fire department, so their pay has been adjusted downward or upward, wherever is appropriate. Is there a motion?
Are we, at the non-public that's coming up at the next meeting, we're doing job reviews?
Yes.
Can we talk about this during that point, that meeting? I mean, I've reviewed them, I just don't know how you establish how it was, or, I mean, how did you arrive at those numbers? I guess that's my,
From the pay table.
okay.
Yeah, we can discuss that. There was a compensation study, and all of our full-time, part-time people, our elected people, were identified and put into a pay grade, a wage scale.
Right.
And I'll just go pick a department, police department. It was based upon their experience in academic level and length of service.
It corresponds to an annual review?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the recommendation that's coming forward is from their department head?
Yes. We have, and the agreement is that the selectmen made with the budget committee several years ago is that prior to these, there is in the last year a job performance review on file that's satisfactory with anyone who gets a pay raise.
Yeah, I haven't had a time to fully review this. So if you wouldn't mind bringing this up at the non-public, so we can go employee by employee, and then we can have an open discussion.
Yes,
about
sure.
it.
Yes.
That would
Yeah.
be better for me.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry to slow it down.
No problem. Other business. I thank everybody for being patient.
Remember?
Yes.
That's somewhere on your list, isn't it?
I have correspondence, right to know request
Yeah.
from our office.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
You want me to present it?
Yes.
All right. The Board of Selectmen were given a right to know request by the law offices of Martin and Hipple for Ed Comeau. They were representing Ed Comeau. And what they're looking for is a complete unredacted list of all employees and all benefits provided to all employees that work for the town. And all persons for whom the town provided health insurance coverage for a portion of 216, 217, broken down by amount paid for and on behalf of each specific individual. All persons for whom the town paid healthcare costs or expenses during that any portion of 216, 217, broken down by the amount paid for or on behalf of each specific individual. And then the dental is the same. We have a 5-day window to respond. I guess my first comment on that is, given the pernicious nature of 91A, the 5 days should toll when we can meet. We have to decide this as a board. So the 5 days would start today. Attorneys differ on that, but even if we decide today, we'll be within the 5 days, so I can leave that argument for another day. The case is cited, and we all have had copies of this over the weekend, I believe.
Yes.
The case is cited by Attorney Hipple or Martin, I'm not sure which one of them it was, Hipple. Lodge v. Knowlton, 1978, Union Leader versus New Hampshire Housing Finance, 1997, Lamy versus PUC, New Hampshire PUC, 2005, and FLRA versus U.S. Department of Navy, 1991. So with the exception of the Lamy case, which was 2005, this is pretty ancient law. So given that, I made a point of going online to see what was out there. The New Hampshire Supreme Court decision on Jeffrey Thomas Clay versus City of Dover, opinion issued February 24th in 2017, and in part reads, as the Supreme Court has explained, the word, quote, personnel concerns, quote, the conditions of employment, close quote, in a governmental agency include, quote, such matters as hiring, firing, work rules and discipline, compensation, and benefits. The last paragraph states, in part, and this is available online for anybody to read, holding the right to know law, which weighs the benefits of non-disclosure against the benefits of disclosure, quote, is inappropriate, close quote, when determining whether documents pertaining to internal personnel practices, remember we just defined personnel in the last statement, are exempt from disclosure because, quote, the legislature has plainly made its own determination that such documents are categorically exempt. We reference in that decision a case called Reese versus Dover, I think it was. Reed versus Dover, also available online at the Supreme Court. But another employee-related case where they go through a 3-part test, but that's a rubric that the court needs to go through to determine whether or not our actions were legal. But we can go through that test as well. But the Reed case was in December of 2016, and the clarification of whether or not we needed to test on health benefits is clarified in the Clay case versus Dover. So I guess we've also gotten a letter from our attorney regarding this, who references the New Hampshire, I'm sorry, I got it right here. New Hampshire Legal Services Council for New Hampshire Municipal Association. I'm sorry, I said New Hampshire too many times. Their recommendation, I don't believe, could include the most current Supreme Court case, February 24th, 2017. So, given that, our attorney would like to have a look at whatever we decide to send. We have in the file, for instance, a document from the Interlocutory Trust that just lists the cost for each plan. We also have summary sheets which list out the amount of the number of plans that we have, which is 14, and the amount that we pay on a monthly basis. We also have that for the dental. So I can't presume to know what Mr. Comeau's after, fundamentally, but our position needs to be that we have to have an open government, but we have to protect the privacy of our employees. That's one of our duties. So if we can present them with categorical evidence that we have 14 plans, which is what we have, and that these 14 plans cost X number of dollars, and there's no additional plans out there that we buy, and there aren't, because we only deal with one insurance company. So I'm not sure why that information wouldn't be enough to satisfy the request without getting into the meatballs of people's names and addresses. The only other question I had, and I'm not aware of it, and certainly we'll go through it, but historically the town has allowed someone who's previously had health insurance with the town to continue to have the health insurance at their own expense.
That's right. And I think it happened just after your last term is Carolyn negotiated with the company that instead of us paying the premium and then collecting the money,
right,
and creating a balance sheet confusion, that company is just contacts those people directly. So, there's no income disbursement.
Right. I mean, the problem the county got into is that they just didn't monitor the comings and goings of people that had previously been insured by the...
With your experience at the county, does the county give out the name of the individual?
I was never a party to
what plan they have?
Mr. Comeau's 91A's actions. My term back at the county was 2008 and 9 into 10. So prior to this, but no, I mean, it doesn't matter whether or not the county does it or not. It only matters what the court has decided we should do. I mean, we're a nation of laws, and the Supreme Court of the state of New Hampshire has said this is how we're going to operate. So I'm not certain that we can do it any other way. We certainly wouldn't be protecting the town's interest if we did it some other way, because at that point in time, now we have an action by an employee.
Yes.
For an appropriate release of
Now,
information, yeah.
prior to your election, there was contact by the budget committee with our chairman, and Stephen Buckley there came up with a list of things that gave the budget committee guidance of, and I got a copy of everything that the budget committee went through this year, and they had all of the information you have. They have a list of employee number 1, family plan, dental, employee number 2, without putting the name in. It was explained to me that, why don't you do it by department? Well, we have a fellow here that's a one-man department, so if you don't use his name, but you say, and it was explained to me by more than one attorney that that's allowing people to find out who he is. If he wants to give that information out, he can, but we can't.
Right. I mean, we can talk about payroll, we can talk about benefits. I mean, the benefit program is for all the town employees.
Yes.
Obviously, we made an election as a town sometime recently to increase the deductible, because there's also the benefit strategies money, which obviously the town's paying part of the deductible. So they increased the deductible to reduce the premium cost to save the town money, but to not impact the employee, the town assumed some of the cost for the deductibles. So, and that's all documented, and it's documented in a form that's just so many payments for so much money.
Let me ask a question. First of all, would it be appropriate for Diane, who's heading up this, to send him a letter that we're trying to compile and determine what the information we can make available?
Oh, no, I think we have to do that, and that's what we're here for today. But I don't think there'll be any mistake as to our motives and our intentions, because we're being filmed.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to boil it down to the simplest thing. You work for the town of Tuftonboro. Do I have the right to know what you get for insurance benefits? And as I understand it, no, I don't have that right to that information. I have the right to the information of what it is for an employee and what is spent, but to link your name to it is not allowed. Is that correct?
Right. You haven't, just because you've become a public employee doesn't mean you've given up your rights as an employee. They don't work under a different set of rules. So we can obviously give out the cost of the plans. It's on our budget what the health benefit costs are in total. And we can give out a summary of how many plans there are, and there are 14. And I mean, it's a simple matter of division to figure out what but there's no way, you can't be telling the world who's got a family plan, who's got psychiatric plans, who's got whatever. So.
Well, there's a list of about 15 things that we can't give.
Right.
For example,
we
can't give out if you have a pistol permit or what you took out for our library books. So.
I know, we had that problem last week with the pistol permit, but.
Well, one of the interesting things about the Lammy decision is, and I happen to know a couple of people involved there, is that the person who sued wanted to know the name and address of all the people who wrote in and complained. And the court said, wait a minute, knowing the name and the address of everybody who complained doesn't not knowing that information doesn't hurt your understanding of how the public utility company responds and works and budgets and whatnot.
Right.
And that goes back to the Reed case, there's the Green case, there's the Timberlane case, and the Supreme Court has said that. You know, there's a reasonableness here.
Well, that's the three-part test that you go through in
Yes.
this Clay case, which is, does the public's need to know the information outweigh the person's right to privacy? And the courts figured that on a benefits basis. I mean, it's pretty clear language, so I don't think we're
Bill, do you want to
barking up a
say anything?
strange tree.
I don't know, I have much more to add on that. I think in the past, as we've talked about releasing information, and we look at the AG's guidance, which is, I forget how many pages, but it's extensive. It makes clear that we as a governing body have a responsibility to ensure that information that's released is not protected information. It's not
Right.
private information of those individuals, because in general, information that's released on the right to know request ends up in very public places. So whatever's on that information is up on the internet, is there for anybody to see, which is fine, but we need to make sure that we're sensitive to and protecting the information that is protected.
I guess along those lines, the lines being the current lawsuit that started before I got here, we need to come to some agreement about the cost of copies. I mean, there's a market rate for copying, and whether we call Staples or whoever it is and establish what the market rate is currently on that, I think just to arbitrarily pick a number, I think doesn't work for us.
There's two Superior Court cases that have said it, that 50 cents is not unreasonable.
Yeah, I'm sure that, but Kathleen McGuire's on the Superior Court, she said that the court system isn't subject to the 91A rule. I find that not a reasonable reading of 91A. So there's disagreements. I don't think it's gone to this, but I put that aside. I think we need to work whatever the market value is for copies if we're gonna charge at all. So if there's a rate that we can get from Home Office or Staples or somebody that's in the commercial copying business, I think it would be to our benefit. Our people are here every day. I realize it takes time away from other tasks, but I think to put that up as a point of contention, I think is costing us legal fees, and it's also not a real good use of our time. I think we can make some copies for this person. I mean, that's beside the point. I don't know why we'd have to mail a response to this. They should come and get the information, but that's another question.
The memo from Diane is, and we're required to provide or respond within 5 business days with an answer. If the records are not immediately available, so she needs to do that, correct?
I think, you know, and I'm not going to start bringing in case after case after case, but we need to respond in the affirmative within 5 days that we are going to do something about this. We don't need to provide them with the information in 5 days. So I think if we send a letter off and say we're working on compiling the information and you'll have it as soon as we can possibly do it, we're also going to have to review that information once it's compiled, and our attorney's going to want to review it, so it might take a week before he actually gets his hands on it. So.
Okay, that's what we'll ask you to do.
Okay, good. And when we meet again, I'll answer the question about the cost of copying, and we can decide on that. And hopefully we'll be able to review this and also have some input from Attorney Sawyer.
Are we ready for public input?
Sure.
Public input. Thank you for waiting.
I have a question about the intent to excavate permits. You were talking about an addendum of some kind, saying that you could rescind the permit. Under what conditions would you rescind? You're telling someone we can rescind if,
Non-compliance with the application. The problem that I had with the series of events was that their applications had not been completed, and yet we were asked to sign permit. So once the applications are, they have 2 years to come to come into
needs to
compliance.
fulfill give all the information
Right.
that's required.
Right.
And that 2 years started with town meeting this year when that was approved.
Yeah.
So prior to that, going back to the early 90s, we had no permitting process, and I presume that the intent to excavate documents were always signed, even though the pits weren't permitted.
I have no idea.
So
Huh?
so do you have people who have excavation pits that have never gotten a permit because the town wasn't doing it? You're gonna send letters to all those people?
They've all been contacted.
Okay.
And they've all started the process. The state used to do it, used to have to get a state excavation permit, but now it's a
So they
town.
all know, and they will be given a permit
Once
with the
they-
knowledge that
once
if
they
they
come-
don't follow through, you can rescind it.
Once they come to the planning board and go through the permitting process, they'll get a permit, and the permit is good for up to 25 years. But this is a handful of pits that have been active over the years. Any new pits have to go through the process before they can do any what we're dealing with here today. So, something that should have happened a long time ago, we just are coming up to speed on now. And we're in a transition, and it's how do you handle the people who've been doing it right along through the transition without saying, you know, I know you've been digging in this pit forever, but you can't do it anymore. Now you gotta go here and do this, and do this, do this. We're giving them a grace period.
Yeah, they always had to do that. It's just what, compliance isn't the
No, always, well, you got two things. You have the permitting, all right, and there was never any permitting until town meeting this year.
Town permitting, right.
Right, well, and the state stopped doing permits, being responsible for it in 1989, I believe.
Yeah.
So we were made aware last year of the fact that, hey, and we weren't the only town. Apparently there are a lot of towns that are in that situation.
And do you have closure regulations?
Closure is part of the site plan on a pit that gets approved. Now, when Jack was talking earlier about how we didn't have anything in place for this guy, again, this was not a permitted pit. It's been a casual excavation, my understanding is forever. So normally if you set up a site plan and you're excavating, there will be some provisions for closure.
And I had asked, I remember at a hearing, whether or not there was going to be no, it was candidates night, whether or not there was going to be bonding for the closure.
And you brought that up last time too.
Right. And we're not sure if there's an answer yet.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Hi there.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Allen, and I wanted to let you know that I attended the Mount Washington Valley Supports Recovery Narcan training last week in Conway. I wanted to thank Max specifically for mentioning that at the last week's Selectmen meeting, otherwise I wouldn't have known about that. Wanted to thank the Selectmen and the town for their support for this group. There were 14 Narcan kits that were dispensed to people that showed up. And we're going to be planning on doing some things in Tuftonboro, Wolfboro, and Ossipee in the next year. And the thought was that Narcan training would be most effective in a non-threatening location, in a neutral location such as the Tuftonboro Library as opposed to a police department or something like that. Additionally, on May 16th, they're going to be sponsoring a coalition of local resource groups and looking for public input on gaps in treatment and prevention around misuse and abuse of alcohol and substance abuse. And that's to be held at the Sandwich Fairgrounds all day long on May 16th. Thank you.
Can I ask just one question, getting back to the right to know request that was just made, the most recent one? I just wanted, in my own mind, to be sure that you won't be sending all of this information to the representative's attorney before our town attorney reviews it?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll say it, I'd just like to commend the selectmen for not knuckling under to a letter from an attorney with, a needy member of the Free State Movement stomping his feet and say, it's 91A, I want to know. And I'm an attorney, so you're going to tell me. Thank you for doing the right thing.
Well, I think we have to remain open and informative, but we don't need to be pulled into something. Do the right thing.
Can I bring up one more old thing here about Brown Road? Because I'm a little muddy on how the whole process came about that the rocks got there.
Well, it's mud season, Stephen, so you...
That's and I've been in it all over. It's my understanding that the town road agent placed the rocks there?
No.
No.
Okay, good, I'm glad I'm wrong. So the landowner put them there?
Yes.
So he is trespassing on town property?
Well, I think we had some representatives from the town at that event, didn't we?
No.
Wasn't the road agent there?
My understanding is that his contractor talked to the road agent on the phone. I know that a representative of a landowner, or perhaps a landowner, talked with one member of the Board of Selectmen about what they were interested in doing. They wanted to prevent people from going across their yard, and we're talking about putting some boulders along the front of the yard. But there was no
participation.
There's no participation. Town didn't say you can put them here. Once they were in, I think everybody was surprised that instead of being back by the edge of the right of way, they're right up in the middle of that area.
So I guess I'm still at a loss as to what happens with them. Do we tell him to put them back on his land, or do we put them back on his land? I just...
We're in the process of dealing with that
We're
right
working
now.
on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Are they good rocks? Should we go get them?
Well, they're rocks that he paid.
All set?
Just to follow up on that, you can go to tuftonboro.net and you can see the emails from Carolyn Sundquist saying that she told the property owners that it was okay to put the rocks there in consultation with the road agent and Jack Parsons. So the property owners in good faith came to the town and asked for guidance, and they received guidance. They followed through with the full awareness of Carolyn Sundquist,
Misguidance.
but not with the awareness apparently of Lloyd and Bill. Because when I asked them in October what had happened, and this is on video and you can watch it at tuftonboro.net, Lloyd said he didn't know what had happened, and I believe Lloyd. And so that's what happened. The property owners did ask for guidance, and they received it, so.
I read a letter at one point from the selectmen to the owners. That was the opposite of that the selectmen sent to the owners, so.
That was afterwards when Carolyn was trying to cover her tracks. But she sent an email saying that she had told them that it was okay and to go ahead and to put the rocks in place. And you can read that yourself, and everybody can read it themselves, because Guy Pike got it in a right-to-know request, so it's available.
Yes, I believe I saw that. I guess the question was how the owners interpreted this conversation. And so then you've got huge rocks that are in the way. No one,
For which they spent a lot of money too, by the way.
from what I have seen, no one said that was okay.
Well, Carolyn said that she said to go ahead and do it, so.
Maybe if you're looking at a tiny piece, out of context. You have to look at the whole
At
context.
any rate, I think we need to just make a decision how we're gonna go forward and then go forward with it. All right.
One hearing aid's gone dead and I can't hear out of the other one. We dismiss the discussion?
So we are not deciding today.
That's fine.
Okay, we
So we
are working on finding
ultimately
the.
going to decide.
Yep.
If there's nothing more from the public, we'll take a break because our next order of business is at the request of the cemetery trustees to go into non-public, RSA 91A32C and L.
Wait.
Lloyd, if I could just say, I just wanted to thank you for sort of opening up the meeting a little bit more with taking comment from the planning board chairman and from the rest of us about Brown Road during the meeting. I appreciate that, and all three of you are responsible for that, so thank you.
Why are we going into 91A? I just want to make, this is the first one we're going to do, so we're hopefully going to do it right.
Sue, is this correct?
91A, 3, 2, C, and L.
Okay,
And
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
you want me to read those? What they are?
Yeah, for the record.
Matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself. And consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally.
So we're moving into that?
We'll take a break.
Take a break.
Is there a motion? I think we have to move to.
Yeah.
We'll take a break and we'll come back.
Yeah.
We're going into non-public?
We have to vote.
I will move, yes, I will move to go into non-public.
I'll second that.
All right. Marcus and I.
Would I?
Chip eye.
Roll call vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll come out.
We have to see Steve Honeycutt passed away. That was a shock.
What's that?
Steve Honeycutt.
Yeah.
He's
Selects
the Sextant.
Right.
He has a
Yes.
handicapped daughter who.
Oh, hi, I
Yes.
heard your name and I said, oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yep.
That was really quick too, it was just,
Was it this long?
That's right.
Really?
that's what I, yeah.
Who gets the, who appoints the new sextant?
Great, that'd be great.
That's-
Now you've got to find
So,
a daughter.
One more
It's
thing.
a unique one, to be honest with you, so, in the way our
Yeah, we
warrant
finally
articles read.
got somebody in the job who's doing a good job and getting along with everybody.
Seemed like such a nice guy.
Resident here.
God damn it.
You know, but it's more
Yeah.
a Hampshire resident, from what I understand, so we have to look more.
He was fine last
You
year.
provide this help.
That's what happens.
Do you folks live in New Hampshire?
I'm fine this year.
Well, I hope you're fine next year too.
Yeah.
All of us. God willing.
From what state?
I have to sit
Okay.
more than
Okay,
2
so I'll
hours
have
in
to-
a whack
definitely I'll have
asses
to, you
at
know,
times.
select a final decision. But your husband was supposed to be a New Hampshire resident.
Oh, so it doesn't matter the time?
Is he aware that he has to show up on the 17th?
Oh, I forgot I was gonna say that.
I was gonna say something too.
You might not wanna schedule a meeting that day.
Well, we're gonna have one in the morning. You know, I'm sure Lloyd's aware of it and Bill's aware of it,
Yeah.
okay?
We'll see how that goes.
Off the record, on the 17th, you're planning a meeting in the morning, and you're gonna have one at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I just, a heads up, I know it, and you know it, so. Yeah, you want to court.
Yeah, you're gonna,
We're going to court,
we're gonna have a picnic that day.
so it's a whole day of that. Did you get to do nursing?
Yeah.